All right, and welcome back to The Balance. I hope you guys have had a chance to listen to our NASCAR segment. NASCAR's out in Texas. A great win for Kyle Larson yesterday in the O'Reilly Parts Series race. We talked with Steve Wilson, editor in chief of Speedway Digest, and our official NASCAR contributor. Guys, guess what? It's the month of May here in Indianapolis, and we are soaking it up. We'll be down there at the track for the Grand Prix, and for the rest of the month, for the most part on the weekend, we'll be doing our drops at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it's coming up to the 110th running of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Joining us now, though, is part two of our NFL draft. We're going to go back and just kind of reflect on who we picked, and then we're going to look at the team grades, and we're going to kind of break it down and analyze it ourselves. Adam, Jividen, Super Browns fan, Buckeyes fan, Cavaliers fan, our college football partner, great prognosticator, great dad, Swiss Army knife. I run out of breath. And then you've got the awesome Ed Kratz, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles, NSI.com, and our official NFL contributor. And we've got my lovely wife, the producer and behind the scenes guy. on, she's definitely not a guy behind the scenes of the show here. So we're all rounded up here and we're ready to go. Adam, I know you live here in the city with me. And I had a chance to give your in-laws the VIP tour last year, and I have had a chance to give you and Jordan the VIP tour there. So we just got to get Ed here for the Indianapolis 500. So
Absolutely. I mean, Ed, it's not like anything really happens in the NFL world in May. I don't know. I don't really think there's an excuse for much longer, man.
that's right. And you know what, Ed? I mean, all these miles that you rack up from flying all over the place. Just use your miles. Come on in here to Indianapolis. You know the city, you know the places to go. We'll get you into the Indianapolis 500. There is no other experience. It is my happy place. That's for sure. So I'm really excited about getting started with that. Of course, we'll have a lot of in-depth coverage of the Indianapolis 500 as we move throughout the weeks. But now's the time to reflect on our draft. I think, guys, every one of us on this panel should be very proud of what we did. And I'm going to turn over to Adam here to kind of lead the ship a little bit here. But just some data points out on what was analyzed here from our picks. Most of the picks were either in the edge grouping or the offensive line. Of course, it's spread out. We have some wide receiver data points and some cornerback data points, but really where the biggest data points are in the edge line and the offensive line. So that tells me that we did a real good job on drafting our first round. There was a lot that happened in the first round, a lot of things that happened in the Colts, and a lot of different things moved around. But I think overall, I think that we did a great job. And so, Adam, we'll turn it over to you. You're going to kind of guide the ship here, and what we'll do is we'll just kind of go through each round. I'll give my pick. The first couple ones are going to be relatively easy, but I'll give when it gets to my pick, I will talk about who was picked and what we thought, and we'll just kind of do that. Adam, does that sound good with you?
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's go. Adam, get us underway. We started with me, but go ahead.
I mean, Fernando Mendoza was the obvious selection. Raiders needed a quarterback. He was the best in the class. The ultimate question on Mendoza, from a long-term perspective, is like, what is his ceiling? I know there's a lot of folks that say his ceiling could be, Jared Goff, and if that's the ceiling, I think you're going to be happy with that. If you're a Raiders fan, so I look at that and I go, okay, they can roll with that. It gives them a franchise cornerstone to go along with the running back that they selected last year and Ashton Genty. I think the Raiders should be happy with where they landed. Obviously, we nailed the pick, but it wasn't like it was very hard.
No, absolutely not. They always say we'll give you a practice round when you're playing like a new game, a new card game or something. Okay, we'll go run one practice round and everybody gets it. So we'll get that. Obviously, it's an A. Very good pickup from Fernando Mendoza. I'm excited for him, and as you might guess, I am going to very soon be getting me a Raiders hat. I am going to be a Raiders fan in the distance. It's going to be Colts. It's going to be Eagles. It's going to be Chiefs, and then we've got the Raiders there. Oh, and then we got the Panthers. So we got all of those that I'm in the mix. But I probably will not buy a Fernando Mendoza jersey, but I am going to get a Raiders hat. So I'm going to give them an A. Ed, I think you're up next. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, am I doing Ed, or are you talking
Yeah.
about Ed's
I
pick?
was just going to go through. Okay, so Ed, you're up next. You had the Jets. What are your thoughts? You picked David Bailey.
Yeah, and that's who the Jets took. I mean, I thought, they needed help with the pass rush. They had, I think, the fewest sacks in the league last year, down near the bottom anyway, and they didn't have any interceptions. So the best way to, maybe secure an interception is to speed up the quarterback a little bit by getting a good pass rush. I thought Bailey. I know a lot of people thought Arvell Reese would go in that spot, but I thought Bailey was the better pick, and that's who they went with. And they get the guy that has put up some pretty good sack numbers. I think he had 14 last year. So, yeah, I thought it was a good pick for the Jets. And I nailed it. So
yeah,
I'm happy about
that. There you go. What grade do you give him? A, B, C?
For the totality of the draft, they're just that great. I would give them an A for just that pick because, like I said,
we're just going first round. But yeah.
I just think that was the better pick over Arvell Reese because, in my opinion, if you had to pick for me the potential for maybe the biggest bust in the draft, I'd probably put Arvell Reese in there. I'm not sure his attitude is going to match his draft status. So. And that's so early to pick that kind of thing. But if I looked at this first round, I would put Arvell Reese probably near the top of, the potential for a biggest bust. So I give the Jets an A for taking Bailey.
Yeah, Pro Football PFF gave them a C minus. I didn't get into all the reasons. I'm just letting you know what they said. So Adam, you are up with the Cardinals, and this is interesting. They went with Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. But they also ended up going with Arvell Reese as a quarterback later on in the grouping there. So you did get it right, and you didn't get it right. So you got best of both worlds. Jeremiah Love, and then Arvell Reese also got drafted to the Cardinals, I believe. But
Arvell Reese went to the Giants.
Oh, I thought he went to the Cardinals as their quarterback. I'm sorry, my bad.
Well, Arvell Reese is a linebacker, so that'd be really weird if he changed positions in the middle of his career.
Okay. My fault. Giants, you're right. I see it
yes.
now. I had
Cardinals,
the wrong tab.
The Cardinals getting Jeremiah Love. It makes a lot of sense on one front in that they don't have a quarterback, really, at all right now. They took Carson Beck later, who is a quarterback, but he's not a very good one. So it's not going to prohibit them from taking a quarterback in this upcoming class. In fact, I think if you were to say who's the current favorite to be picking number 1 overall at the start of the draft next year, I'm pretty sure most people would say it's probably either the Cardinals or the Miami Dolphins. And I think Jeremiah Love is a great pick. My concern, anytime you have a rookie or a rookie running back that's just a stud rookie running back and absolutely nobody else around him, is my concern for Jeremiah Love is that they don't run the brakes off of him, and then it just tanks him for later in his career, and he hits that like threshold of carries that the only one that's really of recent running backs that's been able to like push past it is Derrick Henry, but that's because that man is a freak of nature. So I love the Jeremiah Love pick. I've mentioned previously, I think people that think Love is not as good as Ashton Genty are out of their freaking minds. I think Love is one of the best running backs to come into the class or come into the NFL in recent years. Personally, because of his ability to pick up blitz pickup, I like him even better than Bijan Robinson, who has been phenomenal for the Atlanta Falcons the last few years. So I'd give the Cardinals an A, but I also want to make sure that they don't stupidly use him and kill the rest of his career while just riding him into the ground in his rookie campaign.
And PFF gave that pick a C plus. So there you go. So it's back to me, the Titans, and obviously I had picked Jeremiah Love. I think everybody was like, there should be only one person that comes out of your mouth when you get to the Tennessee pick, and we said Jeremiah Love. But they went with Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, wide receiver. And again, I would have given them an A for that too, but PFF gave them a B. But Adam, you're an Ohio State expert. Carnell Tate to the Titans in the first round. What are your thoughts?
I totally understand the rationale. The Titans wide receiver room is awful. And they need to give their star quarterback, Cam Ward, somebody reliable to throw to. And if there's one thing that Ohio State receivers have shown the ability to do, pretty much consistently year in and year out, is they know how to get open, catch the ball, and are reliable. And that's what they're going to be giving Cam Ward. Again, maybe he may not be, he's not Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's not going to come in a couple of years and be the NFL Player of the Year, but I think he's going to be a very, very reliable weapon from day one for Cam Ward.
All right, we're back to you, Ed. You had picked with the Giants. You had actually picked Carnell Tate. They ended up going again. Based on our previous conversation, he's an edge rusher, by the way, not a quarterback. Arvell Reese out of Ohio State. PFF gives him an A+. Gives them an A+. But what are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I already said about Arvell Reese. I mean, I think he's a good player. We'll see how he develops in the NFL. I think he, seems a little bit of a head case. He came out and talked about how he had like a 0.5 cum or something in high school. I don't know. I don't know why you need to come out and say that kind of thing. But they needed. I'm not really even sure they needed pass rush help. They had some good guys. They could have used a D tackle at that spot. Might have been a little high for a D tackle after losing Dexter Lawrence. But I thought that they probably could have used a receiver somewhere in there, and that's why I had them take Carnell Tate. And hey, Ohio State, I think, has had a receiver taken in the first round the last 5 years in a row, and
it's not changing next year.
No, not with Jeremiah Smith coming out. So I didn't love the pick. I thought that there were other players available. When you're picking that high in the draft, I think you need to get maybe more of a sure thing. You're looking for Hall of Fame type players, and I'm not sure Arvell Reese is going to be a Hall of Fame type player.
So we go next to you, Adam. I believe there was some changing around of the guards, if you will, and they gave their pick to the Chiefs. I believe that is how it worked out.
That is correct.
But you had the Browns obviously going with Monroe Freeling, but they did that deal with the Chiefs, and the Chiefs picked up Manzor Delane out of LSU, cornerback, and PFF gives them a B-. What are your thoughts?
I like the pick for the Chiefs. The question that I had is I was going, who else was taking Mansour Delane? So basically, like, the Browns just got extra draft capital for no reason. He wasn't going to the Redskins or the Commanders. The Commanders were locked in on Sonny Styles as the top guy on their draft board from anybody that had any clue into that war room there. So yes, I like the pick. I think the Chiefs are weird in that they gave up their superstar cornerback to the Rams for some additional draft capital. I mean, I know they would have had to pay him, but to then draft a corner again, it's one of those where it's like, I think the Chiefs in some ways are overthinking this a bit. They've given some bad contracts to some offensive linemen, and given some away. I just wonder from a long-term projection, is this the end? This looks like we're hitting an early end to the Chiefs' run in the AFC in perpetuity. So I like the pick. I like Delane. He does fit a need, but again, they didn't need to trade up to go get him. And I think it's one of those things. It's a forebearer, I think, of things to come in Kansas City.
I agree. I totally agree 100% with you. Okay, so the next pick would have been, to me, the Commanders. That stayed intact. I picked Sonny Styles. They picked Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. Linebacker. PFF gives them an A. I don't disagree with that grade. What are you guys' thoughts on the Commanders going with Sonny Styles out of Ohio State? Adam or Ed or both?
I think it's a great pick. I do. I mean, I think Sonny Styles, another Ohio State guy, comes off the board at that spot. And, he's takes the place of probably Bobby Wagner, who hasn't been re-signed yet. So, Bobby Wagner's 30 plus, and now you get a real stud that you can, lock down for 5 years at least. And I think he's going to be a really good pick for them.
Adam, you got any thoughts on Sonny Styles to the Commanders?
Sonny Styles is a monster. Best linebacker we've had at Ohio State since probably A.J. Hawk. I think that's all you got to
say. All right, next it would have been Ed for the Saints. You picked Jordan.
Oh, wait, James Laurinaitis. Sorry, little animal. I sold you short.
All right, now we got that straightened up. Ed, you had the Saints. Jordan Tyson. They went with Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State, wide receiver. PFF gives them a B plus. What are your thoughts on your pick here, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Saints needed, some help there for their quarterback, second year, Tyler Shugg. I think, Carnell Tate was probably the best receiver, will prove probably to be the best receiver, Ohio State kid. So I think Tyson was considered the second best receiver. So, yeah, it made sense. And it made sense for the Saints to grab him. I think that if he can stay healthy, he's had some injury issues. He's had some hamstring problems. You hope that doesn't linger or crop up again for him. But I think it's a good pick. I think it's a good, solid pick for the Saints, and that he's going to help that offense a lot.
Okay, Adam, this was your little switcheroo, shake and bake with the Chiefs. And so the Browns ended up with Spencer Fano out of Utah, offensive tackle, A+. Not only is it your Browns, but it's your pick, sir. So what are your thoughts?
I put Monroe Freeling in this spot, if you remember during our mock, but I said that I was kind of torn between the two. I think one of the things that, again, you can't see on our side of the table a little bit versus some of the insight that Ed's able to gain is that Spencer absolutely blew the Browns away in interviews. In every way. And our new offensive line coach, George Warhop, was pounding the table for Spencer, saying to the point that they're saying, I will make this guy our left tackle from day one. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm good with it. I was torn between the two. I think Freeland has more upside, but Fano's basically a lock and load starter from day one, which I really like. And so I'm good with it. I gave the Browns an A. If we were to run this out for first round and second round, you would learn that that's a theme for the rest of the first two rounds for the Browns. Absolutely. I love the pick. I love his attitude. I'm really excited to have him come to Cleveland.
All right, then, and the next pick was for me. I picked Caleb Downs here, but the Giants ended up going with Francis Magua out of Miami, offensive tackle, A-. I would have given them maybe a little bit lower grade than that because I would have thought they would have went with somebody maybe a little bit different, like Caleb Downs, for example. But nonetheless, I would say that I'm okay with the A-, but I probably would have given him more of a B or a B-. But so not the end of the world for sure with what PFF does. And who knows? PFF might be a little bit smarter than me anyway. So Ed, I believe you're up next, and it was the Cowboys, but there was another change around there.
Yeah, I
thought. Am I wrong?
I think
you had the Dolphins.
Yeah, we had Dolphins got Marigola, and then it was the Cowboys.
So, Adam, you had the Cowboys, and you picked Francis. This is where things start getting kind of crazy. But the Cowboys ended up going with Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. So, Adam, what are your thoughts on this? And Ed, you too, because I know you love the Cowboys. Go ahead.
Caleb is position by position, at worst, the second best player in this draft, if not the best. He is the new superstar for the Dallas defense, replaces Michael Parsons.
Yeah. I mean, a different position, but yeah, he's a guy that you can certainly do a lot with. Caleb Downs, they have their new DC there, Christian Parker. He's got to be happy with that pick. It's a defense that needed help. There's no doubt. They were horrible last year, and that's probably a big reason they didn't at least make the playoffs. But so that's where they went with this draft. Was a lot of defensive players, and it started with Caleb Downs, who I love. I mean, you look at that NFC East now. The Eagles have to play 3 Ohio State studs twice a year. With Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and now Caleb Downs. Those 3 guys going to different teams in the East. So. These guys are going to make an impact. I think Downs will make the biggest impact in the draft. I mean, I love Jeremiah Love. I didn't love the pick at all for the Titans. They needed so much more. And why are you taking a running back when you don't have the infrastructure? But, I think Caleb Downs is a fantastic pick for the Cowboys, and he's going to make that defense better just by himself.
We'll stay with you, Ed, because this is your pick with the Dolphins, and you had picked Reuben Bain, and they ended up going with Caden Proctor out of Alabama. as a team here, we had conversations when we were doing our mock drafts, and we were, talking before our mock draft. This name came up a lot, and Caden Proctor was one of the top draft prospects. I'm actually surprised that he lasted as long as he did. Dolphins picked him up at number 12, offensive tackle. PFF give him an A+. You can't get any better than that. What are your thoughts? This was your pick, Ed. The Dolphins, Caden Proctor.
Yeah, I loved Reuben Bain. I still love Reuben Bain. I thought he's a steal coming later in the draft. But Caden Proctor, to me, the Dolphins had a lot of needs, and offensive line certainly makes sense. But there was a lot of homework done by me on Caden Proctor because a lot of people had him going to the Eagles at number 23. I think this was a little high for Caden Proctor. Now, maybe not. He could prove to be great, but a big red flag for me is the fact that he's a guy that really has to keep his weight down. He's been as high as 400 pounds. And if he can't do that, if there's nobody in the building to kind of police him, he could end up being, playing himself out of the league. But, I get it. He's a big guy. Sometimes his tape doesn't always prove that he's as consistent as you would like him to be. But, we'll see how he develops. Certainly he's got a skill set. He's got some light feet, good footwork, big guy, but you have to make sure that he's not, sneaking out to the Krispy Kreme after practice.
Hey, just listen. As long as he can't hang out with Zion Williamson apparently in the off season. But here's my struggle with Caden Proctor, and this is the struggle that I think a lot of other people have had too. That aren't. I feel like some of these analysts get so tied to, well, this guy went here and look at what he did here. Just throw on the freaking tape, Mel Kiper, and let me ask you a question. Name me a single game where Alabama dominated on the offensive line. This is where I struggle. When you have an offensive line prospect that is going against talent that he should be able to bully, and he never does it, ever. Alabama not once had what you would even call a plus running game. They struggled in pass protection. And you can say, well, yeah, but the offensive line is a team game. But if you have a franchise left tackle, a dude that gets drafted 12th overall, don't you think you could at least be able to be like, that guy can handle one-on-one and we can use the rest of the offensive line to support? Yeah, but they couldn't even do that. Alabama couldn't run to his side. They couldn't run to any side. They couldn't pass protect to save their life against anyone. And that's the thing is like, stop acting like these not Alabama defenses. These SEC defenses are the best defenses in the country, like you've been touting for the last 20 years. The best defenses in the country all resided in the Big Ten. So like, this isn't even a case of like, dude was going against the best teams consistently. There were hardly any SEC pass rushers that went in the first round that is going to be of any merit. And Caden Proctor still didn't make an impact. I would have been cool with him based off of potential, to Ed's point, when the Eagles picked at 23, not at 12. And then to give that grade an A is just stupid.
So let's move on. Adam, we will stay with you because this 13th pick was your pick, but there was some shaking and baking with the Cowboys. So we ended up with the Rams picking up Ty Simpson with Alabama, quarterback out of Alabama. PFF gave him them an A, and they don't agree with that at all. So that was a very poor decision.
I'm going to be honest. It happened. I was shocked, largely because I think the Rams are looking at this going, we need to get somebody in the building. And this is one where they're going, we have to trust Sean McVay that he's going to be able to get the most out of him. Ty Simpson's not that good. Definitely not to pick there. I look at Simpson. I think he was a borderline first. But the interesting thing is I heard multiple draft pundits that I like trust that said if he, and I did hear Mel Kiper say this as well, that if Simpson didn't go to the Rams there, he wouldn't have gone in the first round. And yet you still have people giving him an A. And I'm like, so wait, if they're the only ones that were going to pick him, why is it still an A? If you're a first rounder, shouldn't you have a bunch of other teams, especially at quarterback, vying to get his services? So that doesn't make it an A to me, in my opinion. I think the pick is a C. The Rams have gone all in everywhere else on their roster, and they had a chance to go get a difference maker on defense or another wide receiver to help out Matt Stafford, the MVP of the league, and instead they go quarterback. And I think Stafford, I've heard his wife say that they're thinking he's going to play another 3 years. So you're going to have 1 year to evaluate Ty Simpson before you have to pull the trigger on his option. I don't get it.
Well, we'll kind of zip through these last few here because we're coming up on the last half of the first round. There was a lot of shaking and baking, if you will. I had the 14th pick. I had the Rams. There was some moving around there, so that got moved to the Ravens. They picked Vega Lone out of Penn State. Ed, you might know this guy a little bit better than I do. IOL. He was given a very good grade. A lot of people like this pick for the Ravens. Ravens made some good strides, I think, this year in the draft. So we'll see how they make these pick win. But they went with Vega Lone out of Penn State.
Yeah, I like the pick. Yeah, I think I made that pick for them. I mean, that was kind of the consensus pick for them, an interior presence, build up that offensive line, especially letting their center leave for the Raiders in free agency. So you need to build up the interior. And I thought he's a good pick. Didn't give up a sack all year for Penn State. Bit of a down year, kind of a toxic year in State College with the head coach and getting fired and this and that. But good pick by the Ravens. I think it's a real good pick. He may end up being one of the best, I don't want to say the best linemen because you had 9 of them taken in the first round, but I think he's going to be in the top half of that class.
Well, and then next would have been you, Adam. You do still have the Buccaneers, but they went with Reuben Bain, and you went with Jermone McCoy. Now, Reuben Bain, not only does he get to stay in Florida, I mean, he is just one of the most elite edge rushers out there. A+, everybody gives him A+. Everybody thinks this was a great move for the Buccaneers. What are your thoughts? You had the Buccaneers in this pick, so they picked Reuben Bain over Jermone McCoy. Adam.
Well, I mean, Jerome McCoy went to the fourth round to the Raiders. Again, that was a situation of the NFL teams had details on the medicals that we didn't in the public have, which explains his fall. I get the Reuben Bain pick. I get everybody salivating over him. You want to talk about busts, Ed? This is a guy that I'm going, I don't know that he's going to be able to get off of blocks. It's just how it is. He's got incredibly short arms. And what's weird is I feel like because of where this guy was at Miami and the fact that so much of the media wants to be touting that the U is back, all of a sudden, this really key defining characteristic got pushed aside for Reuben Bain. He had like the third shortest arms in the history of the combine for projected first round defensive ends, like second or third. Like they're incredibly short, and that is how you get off of blocks. Let's ask people who have to guard Myles Garrett with his pterodactyl wingspan, how he uses his hands to get off of his blocks, and it's not just his superhero physique. Like you have to have an arm length that allows you to bat offensive linemen off of you. I just don't see that for Reuben Bain. Personally, I say yes, he fell to a decent spot where it's not going to be as detrimental if he's not an all-pro caliber defensive end. So I'd give it a B, but I'm definitely not giving it an A.
All right, guys, let's just look at some takeaways because we don't have much longer here on this because we could just go through and just hit every team again. But I think this is a good stopping point and just move to the next part of it and just talk about some takeaways. We'll start with you, Adam. What are some of your key takeaways from round one?
Key takeaway, I'll say from round one, I'm expanding. My key takeaway from the 2026 NFL draft is the Cleveland Browns had the best draft again. This is not even a question. Every draft pundit in the world is saying it was the best class. It's the first time in history we have seen 4 players in the consensus top 35 go to the same team in the first 2 rounds. In the Fano, Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston, and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. They are building. We need a quarterback. But the Browns are building one of the best rosters we have seen in the NFL. Now, obviously, the quarterback is a huge gaping hole. But if they can fill it, it gives them, they now have a roster, a young roster, to go out and next year, if they are, let's just say, middle of the pack, they can go all in for their quarterback. And we'll see if they can hit.
Ed, what are your key takeaways from round one Or you can extend it to round 2 if you want to, or the overall draft if you want to, sir. You have full freedom.
Yeah, well, I like the Cleveland draft also. Two good drafts for them in a row here. They brought in Harold Fannin and the defensive player of the year, rookie of the year,
Carson Schlesinger.
Yeah, he did a good job. Quinshawn Judkins came in and did well. So now I think you have another good draft. And, maybe Taylon Green can be developed to the point where, he can start to climb the ladder. But you're right. That's a gaping hole, the quarterback spot. We talked off air about Deshaun Watson looking good in the couple days of OTAs or whatever it was, rookie camp. But yeah, so that's where you need to have, a good player is at the quarterback spot. But listen, There's no question they had, two great drafts here in a row, probably the best of any team in this year's draft, based on, getting the receivers right. Casey Concepcion, a pick you nailed, right? You had that, I think, in the first round as your pick for them, Adam.
Yes, sir.
And then Denzel Boston comes in the third round, I think it was, but or maybe later in the second. But yeah, two good picks, safety, great value. If I looked at it, it would be from an Eagles perspective, since that's the team I covered. I love their move up to get Mekhi Lemon. Talking to Howie Roseman after the draft, he said that every mock draft scenario the front office did leading up to it, Mekhi Lemon never got below pick 15. So when he started to slip at 16 and 17, they're starting to figure out, let's go up and get him. And the Steelers thought they had him, right? We've seen the video. The Steelers are on the phone with him, which is being investigated by the NFL for jumping the gun. The Steelers are on the phone saying, we're going to take you. And then Howie Roseman, beeps in and tells them we're drafting him. So a little bit of egg on the face for the Steelers there. And then they panic. And I think they take an offensive lineman that, is kind of a project at this stage.
We did have
Econocor.
Yeah, we had him late in the first, but definitely not where he ended up going to the Steelers.
Yeah, he could even have gone early second, but I think the Steelers kind of panicked. But I love the Eagles' move to go up and get him. I think he's going to be him and Devontae Smith. They're going to trade AJ Brown. Let's face it. But I think him and Smith are the present and the future. And then they brought in some guys, in free agency. They traded for Datavian Wicks from the Packers. Signed him to another 1-year extension. So those are three, they have, to me, one of the best receiver groups, I think, in the NFL now. We'll see how Lemon develops. But I like that pick. I loved Eli Stowers. I thought it was a good value pick out of Vanderbilt in the second round. Receiving tight end. He's only been playing tight end for 3 years. He was a quarterback his whole life. He went to Texas A&M. He tore his labrum in his shoulder, and he tried to come back after rehabbing, and his velocity was down. He felt a little pain in the shoulder, so he went into the coach's room and said, hey, I want to play the game. I just can't be a quarterback. And they put him at tight end, and he's still blossoming at that spot. So I think he was a great pick. They get a developmental tackle from Miami, Markel Bell, 6'10", 350 pounds. He's a hard guy to get around, good footwork for someone that big. He can learn from Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. And then you're throwing darts on the third day, really, with a couple picks. They go after the kid from Nigeria, UR Bernard, defensive tackle. We had rookie camp here the other day. He needs help buckling his helmet. Never played football in his life, but he's 6'5" or 6'4", 300-plus pounds. Very athletic. He's got like 4% body fat or something like that. I don't think I've ever had 4% body fat in my life. So this kid,
I know I haven't.
Yeah, I certainly haven't, but I don't think anybody has. But this kid's got it. So, he's a pick that, maybe will develop over time. But I certainly like their first 2 days, the Eagles. I'd give them an A for their first 2 days. And, they took a quarterback in the 5th round out of North Dakota State, where Carson Wentz came from 10 years ago. The Eagles went back and took a quarterback from there. So we'll see how Cole Payton develops. But I like their draft. I thought it was a good, solid draft for the Eagles.
So I want to get to my Colts, obviously, because they didn't draft until to the second one. But one of the things I want to get your thoughts on, a couple of things here is, one, the Ty Simpson debate. It's really gotten a lot of wind the past week. On the Rams selection of Ty Simpson at number 13 was the most divisive pick of the night. CBS Sports said give them an A. They're going places. But then PFA stopped him with the Ports grade, saying that was the biggest massive reach of the week. So, guys, what are your thoughts on Ty Simpson, that debate that's getting a lot of wings right now, a lot of air underneath it?
I know Adam gave it a C. I'm giving it an F. I mean, Yeah, I've heard Les Snead, their GM, is friends with the father, and I think he did him a favor. And Ty Simpson was invited to the draft. I think he knew that the Rams were taking him at 13 because he was invited to the draft.
Well, did you hear the story that came out with the quote unquote secret visit? His father came out and said, Les Snead said, we're taking you at 13 because the mom wasn't sure if she wanted Ty to go into the draft. And they said, why should we go into the draft? And Les said, because I'm taking you at 13.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is this some kind of a rule break? We don't have time to get into that, but maybe it'd be a conversation if that breaks some sort of rule.
It is not, because the Rams went to him. They don't have to disclose that they had a secret meeting. The Rams don't actually invite anybody out to the facility. If they come out to the facility, you are required to report it. If you go to the prospect, you do not have to report it.
So a couple more things here, and I'll talk about my Colts as well. But, I mean, there was a lot of defensive dominance. Ohio State, we've talked about that to death, made a huge impact early with Arvell Race, Sonny Styles, and Caleb Downs, all going in the top 11. Big steals to the Browns, Spencer Fano, Ruben Bain to the Bucks were widely cited one of the best value picks throughout the project. Before I get to my Colts, guys, what are your thoughts on the defensive dominance by Ohio State and then those value steals, Spencer Fano and Ruben Bain? Adam, we'll start with you.
The Ohio State defense it's what won them the title 2 years ago. Now every single starter on that defense has been drafted over the last 2 years. Every single one. That's all you got to look at. I think the defense on this class, it shows the lack of offensive weaponry. And here's the thing. It's going to turn on its head next year, because next year the offensive position players and quarterbacks are going to be flying fast and furious. And I kind of think we kind of do this every other year where it's like it's an offensive heavy draft and then it's a defensive heavy draft. Next year, it is going to be a offensive loaded first round. I've started looking at prospects, and I think you could easily see 20 of the top 32 players go on the offensive side of the ball.
Ed, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I did like Ruben Bain. I know Adam's not a big fan. I mean, I know he has the short arms, but my answer to that would be, I played with 30-inch arms my whole life, and here I am, making a lot of noise at the University of Miami. So I like that Bain pick. I love the Fano pick for the Browns. And the talent that Ohio State produces. I know they didn't win the national championship this year, but Cornell Tate was part of that group too. I mean, 4 picks in the top 11 from Ohio State. I mean, come on, that's insane. So yeah, just great job by Ohio State to produce that kind of talent. It's a shame they couldn't finish the deal and win the national title, but I know you're not upset about that, Tom, because Indiana took home the hard way. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm on board with that. I think, I like Bain probably more than Adam does. I guess he does have some bust potential, and I'd probably put him in there with Arvell Reese possibly, but I think that kid knocks guys backwards when he hits you.
So let's talk about my Indianapolis Colts, since you guys have had an opportunity to talk about the Eagles and the Browns. My Colts were not, thanks to Sauce Gardner, he was our first round pick, and then they messed around with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm like, what the holy crap is going on now? Chris Ballard's doing his voodoo crap, and then it's just like, here we go.
Does he have a voodoo doll of himself?
He might.
I don't understand.
I don't know. But he ended up at the end of the day, and I think all of the three of us have talked offline about this, that this is okay. We'll give him a passing grade for this. He ended up getting C.J. Allen out of Georgia. And then some of the other picks, I thought Hauncey at the LSU Tigers was a good one. And then, of course, just, we got to see where these players work out. Jalen Farmer, Bryce Bochetcher, George Gums Jr., and I love what you said, Adam. What a name! But I did some research on him. He's got some good potential. He was one of those type of sleeper picks. And then Caden Curry, Seth McGowan, Maxwell, and Deion Burks. Now, I want to focus in on what you guys' thoughts on that trade with Pittsburgh. Ended up getting the linebacker C.J. Allen with the from the Georgia Bulldogs. And these are our final thoughts. So, Adam, go ahead.
For the Colts draft, here's the problem that I struggle with Ballard. I liked the C.J. Allen pick. I liked Halsey, the safety pick. But the problem with what Ballard is doing is that man will classically overpay his own players more than anybody else, which then in turn creates more holes that he has to fill in the roster. They wouldn't have to draft C.J. Allen if they didn't trade Zaire Franklin. Why did they have to trade Zaire Franklin? Because they made Alec Pierce one of the top 10 paid wide receivers in the league when he's not even a top 30 production receiver. That's my struggle with Ballard. I liked the draft, but he's having to fill holes that he's creating by his own mistakes when he doubles down or triples down on things that nobody else was going to do.
No, I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying about Alec Pierce, but I'm an Alec Pierce fan, and I hope, and I've got some just big hopes and dreams for him. I feel like that they showed him a lot of confidence that they have in him, because I like Alec Pierce. He's good. Now, you're right, Adam. I
like Alec Pierce. He's not Justin Jefferson. That's my point.
I agree. Ed, final words of wisdom. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I like Neil. I mean, it was an interesting move to trade down, but if you feel like your guy's still going to be there and you can pick up some collateral, then so be it. And I guess he was their target all along. And I love the AJ Halsey pick. Safeties are getting paid a premium these days. So if you can find a young safety and develop him, and now it's up to Shane Steichen and his staff to do just that, then they got a good pick, because safeties are breaking the bank, and now you have a guy that's under control as a second round pick, or I guess it was second, maybe it was third, but yeah, so
third,
yeah. So now you have a guy that you have for 4 years that at a controllable price, and if he becomes what they hope he is and what I think he can be, I really do like that pick. Then it was a great pick, but we'll see. I mean, you mentioned the receiver there, Alec Pierce. I mean, there were a lot of receivers in this class that you didn't have to fork over that kind of money to Alec Pierce. I mean, there were so many good ones. You got to have Zachariah Branch, or whoever later in the draft, Jacoby Lane, Chris Brazzell from Tennessee. I mean, there were so many receivers that I think it might have been a bad decision to give Alec Pierce that kind of cash. You could have spent that elsewhere, and you could have filled the receiver hole somewhere in this draft.
Well, I do know one. Yeah, I agree. I do know one thing for sure, that our new owner, daughter of the great or not so great Jim Irsay, Carly Gordon Irsay, she likes to have that whole name said out. She publicly said, we're going to give it another year. We want to see what happens with Shane Steichen and Ballard. So both of these guys know their job's on the line. They know they've got to do something this year. And maybe there was something working in the back of Chris Ballard's head that says, hey, if I'm going to save my job, I don't know. But I don't think that he's going to have the latitude with the daughter that he had with the father. Guys, that's got to wrap it up and put a bow on it. Our NFL draft is behind us. Adam, I know you're not a social media guru like the rest of us in the world are, but we always let you know that you have a spot with us. So
that's right.
Anytime you want some, and a lot of people don't know this, behind the scenes, all of our social media posts during the draft came directly from Adam Jividen. So, you can reach out there and open up an X, Adam. I'll help you do it.
Yeah. It's not that I need help. It's that I don't need one other thing. And you know what? We got a good following, so I'm happy building our following through the pipeline as opposed to splitting it up.
I love it. Ed Kratz, we know you're on social media. We love you on social media. But where can people find your work and masterpieces, sir?
Yeah, Kratze is my Twitter, Kratze. I don't tweet about auto racing, but I love the fact that it is Indy 500 month, and I love the fact that you guys would get me to a race. It won't be this year. I know we have a vacation lined up early June. We're going to Wyoming to Tetons and Yellowstone. So,
nice.
But I'm definitely going to put that away maybe for next May, and maybe come out to a race, because that is something I really should see in my lifetime, right?
And if you can stretch it, you could do the Grand Prix and the 500.
There you
and
go.
Get both ends of the spectrum.
Grand Prix coming up this Saturday. So
that's right.
There you go.
Let's not push it, fellas. Let's not push it.
we have a lot of fun with it, and Adam knows when I tell you that I can get you in the spots that nobody else can get you, and in front of the people. Am I wrong, Adam? I'm not just tooting my horn.
Not just tooting the horn.
I love it.
He'll actually get it done, unlike certain people that hold executive positions here in Indianapolis.
That's right. All right, guys, we got to wrap it up and put a bow on it. We'll talk with you soon.
All right,
thanks guys.
See ya.